and the visual is stunning. I hope they document what I'm becoming. Congratulations.
People's kid, how we doing? It's your boy Kobe back at it again with another video, and as always, hope you guys are having a blessed day. With the NBA draft upcoming, I thought it'd be nice to put out some more NBA draft content discussing the top player available not named Zion Williamson, Ja Morant, or RJ Barrett. In particular, I wanted to touch on a prospect who I think has gone under the radar by a lot of casual NBA fans, and I think there's an opportunity for him to become a potential star if given the right shot. Real quick, just want to thank everyone for the recent support lately. We hit 40k subscribers I think last month, and now 50k might be on the horizon soon, so thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate it. And per usual, if you guys enjoyed the video, please make sure to like and subscribe, as I plan to drop videos all summer 2019. And with all that said, let us jump right into the video. No matter the discussion on the future stars of tomorrow in a league booming with young talent, there are always a couple NBA prospects that get the majority of the attention from media personalities and fans alike. Whether they get dubbed the next LeBron or the next Stephen Curry, these elite players live in a world of their own, where their multi-million-dollar brand deals and Instagram verified tags are all settled well before they even step onto an NBA court for the first time. Yet, unfortunately for the teams that have the chance to draft the top dogs, there is no true guarantee they will actually end up being the best players in the draft class. Because going back to some of the worst draft picks in league history, we can clearly see there are moments where the quote-unquote best player available wasn't really the best player available. Just in the last 10 years, when you lay it out clean, it is very easy to see there is definitely a good chance the media's top darling prospects do not end up to be the greatest player from that particular draft class. Of course, Steph Curry in 2009, Kawhi Leonard in 2011, and Giannis Antetokounmpo in 2013 stand out as the ultimate steals over this time span, but even take a look at 2014 where the whole Wiggins vs Jabari debate looks pretty foolish, with Embiid now being the clear undisputed top player. But why am I saying all this? Well, as I'm sure you all know, the highly anticipated NBA draft lottery came and went about a month ago, with the New Orleans Pelicans winning the ultimate prize of receiving the number 1 pick. Followed by them is the Memphis Grizzlies, and following them at number 3 is the New York Knicks. No doubt, while Zion Williamson is the perceived jewel of this draft class, most NBA scouts have argued attaining a top 3 pick should be considered a win this year, as the common belief has been this draft is top heavy and only a few prospects have a chance to become franchise players. If we were to do a tier list, I would say 80 to 90% of people would put Zion Williamson in tier 1, slight drop to tier 2 with Ja Morant, and then maybe another slight drop to tier 3 for RJ Barrett. After these 3 tiers, many believe the drop-off is significant enough to claim there is really not a home run pick, and the selection should be focused primarily on team need. And although I completely understand the logic of this opinion, I feel the need to discuss one player who might be getting a bit overlooked because of his inactivity for most of the season. If you haven't guessed by now, this player is none other than Vanderbilt's Darius Garland. Growing up in Brentwood, Tennessee, Darius Garland was always ahead of the curve as a youth prospect as he began his high school career at the prestigious Brentwood Academy. After being named the team's starting point guard as an 8th grader, Garland quickly became well known around recruiting circles as one of the top point guards in the class of 2018. Thanks to a growth spurt between his sophomore and junior year in which he grew about 2.5 inches, Darius developed even further and averaged a combined 25 points per game between his junior and senior year. And as the recipient of the Mr. Tennessee Award 3 times over, Garland was ranked the 11th best player in the class of 2018 by ESPN. When it was time to make the decision on where to play, Garland decided to stay local and committed to Jerry Stackhouse and Vanderbilt University in the hopes of getting the Commodores back in the NCAA tournament. Unfortunately, despite a promising start that included a historic 33-point performance early in the year, Garland injured his knee on a layup in the 5th game of the campaign. And with little to gain returning back to Vandy later in the season, Darius called it a college career in January to prepare for the NBA draft. While what he had shown this year has been incredibly brief, there is clearly still plenty to be excited about, because after a brief showing at the NBA Combine, Garland got the nod he would be selected by a team in the NBA lottery. So what exactly is Darius' ceiling? Without further ado, here is the scouting report of a potential future gem. If there is one place to start when discussing the game of Darius Garland and its potential for NBA excellence, It would have to be at the same spot it does for many scoring guards like himself, behind the three-point line. Yes, perhaps the biggest strength for Garland is his advanced development as a shooter at such a young age, averaging 16 points per game during his mini stint in Vanderbilt. A lot of Garland's production was due to his knack to find space to shoot both on and off the ball. While only a brief sample size, Darius shot a remarkable 48% from the three-point line and quickly became identified to opponents as the player you cannot leave open. In terms of how he created good looks at the rim, Garland proved to carry the shimmy and shake scouts love to see in isolation situations, where his combination of ball handling and quickness was often enough on its own to get him into excellent shooting opportunities one-on-one. Beyond just his on-ball shooting, however, Garland has shown he is not just a one-trick pony, as his comfort in spot-up shooting situations was also on full display whenever he laced them up. With two-guard lineups not uncommon in today's game, this offensive versatility to play off the ball does not go unnoticed by NBA front offices. From a mechanics standpoint, apart from having a slightly low release point, Garland's form looks smooth and fluid in full motion without any hitch or wasted action. Pivoting to the part of the game that will be critical to his potential to become an NBA All-Star, Garland's playmaking at this stage is good, not great, as he has shown flashes of quality decision-making when running the pick and roll. Despite being equally a great scoring threat with the ball screen up high, Darius is willing and able to hit the roll man on a rim run or even hit the baseline cutter that takes advantage of a defender caught sleeping. In my opinion, the most exciting action we see from Garland in these pick and roll situations is his ability to split the hedge and create a numbers advantage for his team going downhill, obviously leading to high percentage shots. In transition, although not the speediest player you'll ever see, Garland carries great poise and will often make the right pass or lob depending on the situation. Not to dog on the Vanderbilt roster, but it looked to me that Darius looked to create more opportunities when he played with more talented players, such as that of the McDonald's All-Americans and Nike Hoop Summit attendees last spring. Of course, that isn't to say his score-first instinct will disappear anytime soon in the league. Rather, it is just further evidence for future development as a distributor when he is surrounded by NBA talent. With respect to his dribbling, Garland carries a tight handle that serves him well in keeping defenders on his hips and limiting turnovers as his team's main ball handler. And while he is still putting together his finishing ability around the rim, Darius does an admirable job getting into the paint by subtly changing speeds and direction with the ball in his hands, which by the way is a very underrated and important trait for a 6'3" guard. For those that are adamant about understanding Garland's future impact defensively, I will say while Darius is a player that will get bodied up quickly at the current weight he sits at, there is some admirable effort shown on tape to where you think he can outsmart and out-hustle his clear physical limitations. Sure, there isn't much wow on this side of the ball, but the good news for him is that there are very few excellent point guard defenders in which the gap between he and future colleagues will be too significant. Finally, as I like to discuss this point with all players I review, from a character standpoint, I really don't see any red flags whatsoever with Garland, as he seems to be a player that is focused on basketball first and foremost, without any room for anything else. From talk around the teams that are highly considering drafting him, the general consensus is that Garland is definitely coachable and will respond well to veteran leadership.
Where chips fall. If I go 1, 2, I'm really blessed. It'll be really cool if it could play in an association. That's the goal.
So as you can see from the strengths I've outlined, it is very clear Darius is going to be undoubtedly the very best player in this draft class. Laker fans, stand up. This is your moment. Okay, obviously I'm just kidding, and now that Anthony Davis is headed to La La Land, I know any Laker fans watching could probably not give two about Darius Garland. Anyways, as no player is completely free of pain points, it is only right to go through some of the weaknesses of Garland's profile as well. In my opinion, perhaps the biggest detriment to Garland's future NBA success has everything to do with his average physical profile. Although his size at 6'3" shouldn't cause any serious problems on his own, his middling athleticism and average wingspan will make it harder for him to handle the size and length in the NBA. Despite having a decent knack for finishing in a finesse manner from time to time, Garland is not in the same area code around the rim as a guy like Kyrie Irving, who I know some people have tried to make the draft comparison to. Whereas Irving is a finisher who makes a living off of absorbing contact and shielding his body from potential rim protectors, Garland is much less welcoming of this contact and will attempt to finish in a way that avoids confrontation, either with a floater or a sidestepping layup. Not only does this lead to lower percentage shot attempts, but it also impacts his ability to get to the free throw line, evidenced from his meager 3 attempts per game from the charity stripe at Vandy. In addition, while I already slightly touched on this, Darius will probably only be able to handle defending point guards at the next level. Not a deal breaker whatsoever, as plenty of successful ones in the NBA deal with this reality as well, but his value does diminish a bit with the lack of defensive versatility. Again, for those that know me, I think individual defense is always a bit overblown, and will take 5 average defensive players on a well-coached and disciplined team over a team with 5 individual defensive stars but are poorly coached. Moving on, another area where Garland will have to get better at is his balance between scoring and distributing. Although a point guard that thinks to find his shot first is a prevalent feature in today's NBA, the best guards are the ones that have the feature to be elite in both facets when the game depends on it. While I gave him credit for his willingness to embrace this playmaking role at times so far in his amateur career, it is clearly easy to see the decision-making process will need a bit of work, as it is still a bit of an unnatural role for him at this current time. Fortunately for him, however, many top-notch scoring guards have developed to be very good, if not elite playmakers when given the keys to run NBA offense for a few years. So Garland very well could do the same. Lastly, the final weakness I have to mention on Darius just relates to his overall health and chance of injury risk. Entering your name in the NBA draft after a season-ending injury will always lead to questions on if a player is injury prone, but sometimes it really amounts to nothing. While some players who have injury history prior to playing the NBA garner more injuries in the pros, some are completely fine and go on to have excellent careers. So if you're a team in the lottery that is sold on Garland on everything else, I really don't think you can let this stop you from making the pick if he's proven to be 100% healthy. Now, when we talk about the best case scenarios for a guy like Darius Garland, there are a ton of comparisons that people love to make when they catch some of his tape. Some say Kyrie Irving, some say Damian Lillard, but I honestly think the best comparison today for Garland, if he were to reach his peak, would probably be a Buddy Hield meets Kemba Walker. Now, I know Kemba shoots nearly 10 threes a game, but I believe Garland could be a stronger weapon coming off screens and shooting off the catch similar to Hield. With respect to the worst case scenario, I will admit the floor for Garland is significantly lower than that of Zion, RJ, and Ja, and that is exactly why he isn't in the first 3 tiers I mentioned earlier. And even putting the injury risk aside, there is a chance Darius just doesn't prove to be a starting NBA point guard. It happens. Not saying he will be a Markelle Fultz level bust, but I can't say it will be completely shocking if he did end up being a backup point guard, because just like any other NBA prospect in this draft, we really won't know what Garland will be until we see him on the court next fall. And for one fateful team, he could be the guy that changes the direction of the franchise for the next decade. Anyways guys, that's the video, hope you enjoyed. Man, really happy to do this profile on Darius, as I really didn't know much about him before looking into him more. As the Lakers no longer sit at the number 4 pick, I am definitely curious to see where he'll end up. What do you guys think? Do you think Garland can be an NBA All-Star? What would you say the best comparison is to him? Comment all your thoughts below. With that said, hope you guys have a great rest of the day or night, or whatever time it is. I'll be back at it soon. Peace out.